Are we good?
Are we good? Yep. All righty. Patrick, are you going to lead the show, or am I going to lead the show?
I guess I can lead the one.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Are you supposed to count us down? That's how it's done
1.
officially. Why does he point at me when you're leading the show?
I don't know, but why are you talking when I'm leading the show?
Because there's no other way to point out Rich's foibles.
I like confusing you. It's so easy.
Okay, do you want to count down again?
Nope.
Okay.
I'll count for you.
Well, welcome to another magical episode of Even More Mashed Up, a podcast about all things pop culture, brought to you by Misericordia University and featuring two professors talking about all things pop culture. I am Patrick.
And I'm Allan. And we've got a special guest
Special
today.
guest, yes.
Vicki, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Nobody loves Harry Potter's world more
You got it.
Then,
than Vicki.
who is...
I happen to be his wife.
Yeah, I was saying, do we want to actually explain who
I
Vicki
thought
is?
listeners knew that.
I don't think he wants to own me.
I feel like we should probably
We talk
mention
about
it again.
Vicki all the time on the show.
We do, but I feel like
You're
we,
practically you've been on before.
True.
Yeah, but it's good to remind people when they come on.
I guess so.
I am
know.
the woman who was willing to stay with this man for more than 20 years now.
24 years.
Is willing the word you want to use there?
What are you suggesting?
Oh, boy.
Wow, this is getting darker than
I
Grindelwald.
was like, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what...
Which, by the way, Grindelwald's the topic of today's show.
Oh, yes. Well, I tried to cue that up
Yes.
with the magical
Yes,
podcast.
the Crimes of
The
Grindelwald.
Crimes,
Yes,
well,
yeah.
Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald.
I have an idea for a spin-off. Fantastic Beats, The Crimes of Hall & Oates.
Oh.
That doesn't really make sense, because if they're crimes, they wouldn't be Fantastic Beasts.
But it's exactly how Fantastic works for The Crimes of Grindelwald.
Well, no, because the
So it
Fantastic
does make
Beasts
sense.
are more about Newt, and the crimes are Grindy's.
Yeah, I got to agree with Patrick on that.
Which, by the way, I'm
Grindy's?
going to be calling him Grindy.
Grindy?
Oh, don't.
It was
do
much
it.
better than call... I didn't want to type Grindelwald every time I mentioned him, so in my notes he's
Waldo.
Grindy.
Isn't it Grindelwald?
Apparently, there's some debate about that.
Really? I'm pretty sure it's Grindelwald.
No, that is
Because he
correct.
seems very German.
Well, that's
Yes.
how Dumbledore pronounces it
Yes.
in the film.
Yes.
But I think in the first one he was Grindelwald. I think when they mentioned him in Fantastic Beasts. I can't remember if it was Voldemort.
Really? Well, maybe they were just saying it wrong, kind of like Voldemort.
Well, they were the Americans, so they probably were being lazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, because we don't learn to
No.
pronunciate the German.
Exactly.
We Americans are lazy.
Exactly.
It's hard.
So, yes.
Lazy and late.
The
we
one of the things I
Americans
find
are.
interesting, because the first movie was called Fantastic Beasts and Where They Come From, which now, if Fantastic Beasts is sort of the overarching title,
Yeah.
does that mean the title of the first film was And Where They Come From?
No, I don't think so. Because this is just your need, your OCD need for everything to be exactly and
Well, then the
precisely
title of this
same.
should be Fantastic Beasts and Where They Come From, The Crimes of Grindelwald.
Do you really want that on
According
poster?
to your
Yes.
system of classification, yes.
Yes.
But I was really offended when we walked up to purchase the tickets and the woman working at the theater didn't know what we
She had
meant
no
when
idea
we
what we
said
were talking
Crimes
about.
of Grindelwald.
Yeah, she's like, what?
We had to tell her Fantastic Beasts.
And that
Yes.
offended you.
It offended me as a fan.
Well, you would think that you
Yeah.
know, I feel as an employee of the Cinemark, they should have known, like, what movies. Like, how do you
I-
not know what Crimes of
So
Grindelwald
you're calling
is?
for
Because
more
they don't care.
professionalism on their part.
Yes,
but
on
how
the,
could they
you know,
not
the
care?
17-year-olds that work at Cinemark.
Right.
It's
You
their
want
job.
more professionalism.
Yes, I do.
Did you listen to the start of this podcast?
Yes, I did.
Okay, just saying.
I was not the one responsible for the lack of professionalism on this podcast.
Partly you were, though.
No.
Partly.
Again, I'm the one that maintains a standard on this show.
A standard of what?
We should ask the fans to vote who's least professional.
Oh, could we please run that?
yeah, let's not
Just
do
run a
that.
percentage. to
But we
see-
should probably start talking about the Crimes of Grindelwald,
Yes.
since we are
Not your
professionals.
crimes.
And that is the topic.
That's right.
Yes. So, where would you like to start?
Well, I think you said you had things you liked and things you didn't.
Pretty much. I mean, overall, I enjoyed the film.
I
Even
really
though
enjoyed the film, although the reviews
The
have
review,
been.
yeah, like I was
ugh.
kind of surprised that I liked it because, like, I was kind of expecting something closer to Suicide Squad. And that
I
it
didn't
feels
read
like
the
this
reviews until the film was over, and I'm like,
I saw a few of them. I'm like, ooh, 40%. I'm like, that's not good. And
I
then
thought to myself, is that like, did I like this too much?
yeah, I mean, I'd say at least some of my liking the film is probably due to that. My general love of Harry Potter, and I really like the Fantastic Beasts franchise.
Yeah, your fandom is.
So
it often gets in the way of your
It
critical
does.
faculties.
I mean, the movie does have issues.
What did you think, Vicki?
I was
Because-
super disappointed.
Yeah.
So you are the fan, like unlike Patrick.
I'm a huge fan, and
You're
I
both
was
huge fans,
super
but you can
disappointed.
actually like see things for what they are.
I felt like it was
No bias whatsoever.
Yeah, I was so excited I couldn't wait. I actually tear up whenever I see a preview for anything that has to do with the Harry Potter.
That's like me with the Star
world.
Wars music.
Yes,
Right,
Yes.
exactly.
It brings in
I
me,
don't tear up. But.
and to me, it just
Sure.
felt like a
Sure.
You
say-
bawl like a
you-
baby.
you- and then eat your floor corn.
And then, yes.
I was really disappointed. I
Okay.
was
Because you
super
were
disappointed.
so
I was so excited and so
enthusiastic about what it might
enthusiastic,
be.
and it felt like, I mean, I realize that all these fans are saying, wow, major, huge epiphanies. And I just felt like it was just sort of this series of little, not surprising events that were all put together to try to make a movie in a short amount of time and not that much interesting.
A series of not surprising events. That sounds like a good
Yeah,
subtitle.
yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, there's a lot. It was a lot. I mean, I think a lot of this film. One of the places I do agree with the reviews is that I think a lot of this film was kind of moving characters into which camp they were going to be. Like
It's
the whole,
definitely a
the whole,
middle film
Oh yeah, it is.
in a
the whole
world
choosing
building
sides
effort.
theme seems to be, which ultimately it's kind of anticlimactic because the only person who chooses a side that you didn't expect was Queenie.
Spoiler alert.
And you kind of could see that coming.
Yes.
Everybody else was on the side that they were to begin with.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, okay, so.
Right, and even Lita, it was not that surprising.
Well, Lita, there was a moment where, there was one moment
Right.
where it's like, is she joining Grindelwald or is she going to fight him?
Right.
And then she fights him, which I'm going to put in quotes, because she, shot off, 2 spells and then he basically just wiped her out. Like, her death was a bit anticlimactic for
Well,
me.
can I just say, the whole blue flame thing,
Yes.
that immediately kills, a bunch of Aurors. Mm-hmm. But others are able to just wave their wands and
Well-
keep the flames away from them. I thought,
Well, there's that. I think other people could pass through it because that meant they were loyal to
No,
Grindelwald.
but I'm talking
Right.
about the ones that stayed outside
Right.
and didn't become loyal to Grindelwald.
Well, but those were bad Aurors.
no, some of them were major. Some of them were characters in the show, and others were just bodies to be evaporated.
Yes, bad Aurors.
Yeah. See, I have a
Call
feeling
them extras.
They were disposable Aurors.
the complaints I raise, you're going to often say these things about.
Okay, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Queenie's behavior when she went into the flames suggests that she may switch back, because did you notice that she almost didn't make it as she was going through?
She did struggle at first.
Yeah.
I find her very not interesting.
Yeah.
But that was
No,
the only
Are
sort
we
of
starting with the
interesting
negatives
thing.
then? Because
We seem to have wandered
Sorry.
into it.
because
Yeah.
Queenie to me is a definite.
I think
negative.
what I think is going to happen with Queenie is I think either her or Jacob, more likely her, is going to get killed over the course of it, and it's going to lead to a reversal of the no Madge restrictions in. It's going to be like that's because the only reason she joins is because she wants to marry a non-magic person.
Yeah.
Which is really incredibly stupid.
Yes.
That's
that
so sad. They make her
Grindelwald-
so dumb.
Grindelwald of all people,
Right.
who would possibly believe, right, Rich, that Grindelwald is like, yeah, marry non-mages, marry muggles, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
He
He
literally
dresses
calls them
evil.
beasts of burden and
He
says
does.
most of them should be destroyed.
But at the same time, Queenie does show up in this film having completely ensorcelled Jacob and doing whatever she wants with him.
I love ensorcelled.
It's a good word.
Ensorcelled.
I like that better than enchanted. She's
Okay, but
ensorcelled.
don't you
But
think?
no, that was
So,
sorry. That
but,
was
but that she shares kind of that. In that, you kind of see that Queenie kind of shares this idea of she can do what she wants.
I just thought
with Jacob.
of many things that sort of spun out of the first movie that I didn't find believable.
Mm-hmm.
One was that Queenie would be such a despicable character.
Yeah.
Yes.
That she
Well-
would actually do that to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found unbelievable based on the first film.
I agree.
Yes, I did too. Like the
Because
woman-
that's like it's kind of a psychological rape almost of this
Yeah.
guy, right? No,
Yikes.
yeah.
No, I agree with you about it. That was just harsh. I didn't expect that.
sorry.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
I mean,
but
it
to
is
me
really
was-
weird. It is.
To
It's
me,
like,
it was like this. It was just really brutal behavior. Like
yeah.
it's like roofing somebody, right? Like
Well,
it's
Basically.
not only do they make her brutal, but they make her just really vapid. I was
like,
annoyed
yeah, both.
by how easily pliant she was, because I didn't get the sense that she was that way, and they had this
Yeah.
opportunity to make a strong character, even though she might go to a side you don't agree with.
Yeah.
She could still be strong.
She could be. She
Yeah.
could be strong and go to
Right.
the other
But there's
side.
also,
but she's
I don't
not.
really
She's
understand
a-
the whole
she's a
reason why
dope.
she has to ensorcel Jacob. Because it's not like he's going to say no to going to Paris with her.
Well, she has to. He has to be ensorcelled because he won't marry her, because he's afraid it will do something bad to her back in America.
And she thinks that he doesn't have any courage.
But
It's a shame there's no potion she could put to give him courage, instead of completely
Yeah.
mind wiping him or whatever.
although honestly, I think if you give somebody courage, it's better than what she did, but it's not
still-
good,
it's-
right?
Oh yeah, but at least it makes sense to more. It's like, he doesn't have courage.
Rich
okay.
and Patrick are not married yet. my advice would be to marry somebody who actually wants to marry you without the need of
Can I say thank you?
of
Can I just thank you
potions
for the
or
yet?
or ensorcelment.
Thank you for the
Ensorcelment.
yet.
Yeah.
I don't think he meant to imply that both of us would be married together. Simply
No.
that we are
That
not
was
yet
actually
married.
the understanding that I took
No,
away from
no,
that.
but we're
As
not.
did I.
No, I just went, the yet does at least
Do you
hold
have
out
an
some hope.
announcement to make?
One never knows.
Yeah. So
Okay, well, I have to say, with two professors sitting here,
Yeah.
I wanted to know, did Dumbledore... So he made his tenure transition from three-piece dandy suit, which
Yeah.
is what you used to wear to work,
That's true.
to at
It's a
some
fair
point, he became, like, robe-wearing, glitter-sporting,
yeah.
long
That's
hair,
actually a really
you know,
interesting
tenured
question. Like
Dumbledore.
the Hogwarts has actually gone backwards.
Well, I feel
Like it used
it's
to be
clear that
faculty wore robes.
it's
and now
clear
they
that
don't.
well, no, they went forwards.
No, they used to dress like we dress now, and now they dress in robes.
They
and
dress more
sparkles.
formal. Yeah.
Are you suggesting that you wear a three-piece suit to work now? Because I'm talking about you.
I'm talking about the general
Pre-tenure
trend. I'm
and
trying to.
post-tenure.
I'm trying to.
Is that much of a? Is there that much of
I
a difference
don't wear-
between him pre-tenure and post-tenure?
Oh my
don't wear
goodness,
glitter.
yes. He looked.
Not
I've
yet.
only, actually I've only known him post-tenure, so
You did show up at my tenure celebration.
Yeah, like
dinner.
I've only had
you
the
gave
one
that
year.
speech entirely
Yeah,
about
I had
yourself.
that one
They
year
used
of you
to
as
call
ten-
him
yeah.
a dandy here on campus. He
Really?
would come in his
Well,
shiny
Becky did.
shoes and
I
his
used to wear.
tie
I
and
used
his
to
vest
dress
and his-
better.
So Dumbledore made me think of this
Yeah.
because
What's
it
interesting
was
is that
So I'm kinda
the
like
Dumbledore.
Dumbledore.
regime that is supposed to be like the less strict regime is the one that forces people to wear the fancy robes.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's very odd to me.
It is kind of odd. You're right. They did kind of wear like normal clothes, and then Dumbledore came in and said, "Robes for everyone."
But maybe in the
And
wizard.
slippers.
wait, but maybe in the wizarding world, robes are just like pajamas or what's comfy.
Oh, maybe it's that they're no longer trying to pass as Muggles, and now they're wearing their robes and embracing their magical selves.
Could be.
It's just funny because I always thought that was a huge part of his personality. So he didn't seem like Dumbledore to me
Yeah.
in his three-piece
Yeah.
suit. He was very buttoned and uptight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's young.
Right.
Yeah.
He's not fully,
Yeah.
Not fully Dumbledore
comfortable
yet.
with
Yeah.
himself. Yeah.
Yes. Well, he's not.
Still very comfortable using other people to get stuff done.
Well, that is a very Dumbledore
Absolutely.
thing.
it is. I was going to
That
say
is a very Dumbledore thing.
Yeah.
Is to
It's
to
funny
use.
that he's such a hero in a way,
I'm not sure he is.
but to people,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
the
like,
general
the general
populace
public
would
doesn't see the manipulation of things. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, like he's basically using Newt
Yeah.
in a lot of the same ways that he used Harry.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's really a guy who uses students, which, if you think about it,
Yeah.
is even
Yeah. So I mean, Dumbledore. You know, there's.
worst pen ever. Rich,
Would you? I offered to get you another one.
would you mind getting me another pen, just so I can keep up with the show?
Why do you have to take?
I just like to mark off what we've talked about or not talked
Oh,
about, and then
okay.
sometimes I like to doodle.
Okay, well,
When
since
you're,
we're sitting here
wow.
talking
When you
about
get
your
going on
pen,
a particular
That is
topic, I'll just
hurtful.
I
Yes, Vicky. What would you like to talk
I
about?
had not seen any previews, so I could not understand that there was not a collective gasp in
Mm.
the room when Dumbledore looked into the mirror of Erised, which I always wanted to know what he
I
would
had never
see.
thought about it, but
And I was so excited with this anticipation when I saw him getting, and then everybody was just sitting there like it wasn't
Yeah.
a big deal. To
Yeah.
me, that was the biggest thing that happened in the whole film.
Hmm.
Yeah, and no one else seems to really think it's that great.
Yeah. No. I mean, it
so you were
was-
disappointed in the audience as well as the film.
Yes.
Well, but it's the film's fault because they sort of spoiled that in the
How could
trailer.
they possibly do that? After you told me that, I was so surprised.
Yeah, that was definitely in one of the trailers. Was
Because
him
his-
looking in the mirror, and clearly
Yeah.
you could see that he was looking in the mirror of Erised. Like it
Right.
wasn't just
No.
like him looking into like the Pensieve or something
Yes.
like that. You saw
Right.
you saw the frame and everything.
Yeah.
Like it was like, oh, okay, he sees Grindelwald.
I mean,
Okay.
Harry used to reflect on Dumbledore. Always would say like, "I want a pair of socks,"
Yeah.
and he was always like, "I really want to know what Dumbledore is." And obviously, so you knew it had to be something huge.
It was meant to be a big reveal.
Yeah.
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 So
Well,
that-
but
that-
again, I think that's part of the issue with Crimes of Grindelwald, and that I don't think it's probably got too much going on, so that moments that should have greater resonance
yeah.
Yeah.
don't. Like
And-
Lita's death for me
Yeah.
did not. I'm like, I've known her for like 5 minutes. She had
Yeah.
like 2 scenes. Like
Yeah.
I kind of like compare her to like Cedric Diggory in Goblet of Fire, where you actually cared about his death.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was around for just as long as Lita, and like Lita she felt like a cipher to me at the end. I'm like, oh, she's
Right.
dead now. Okay.
But speaking of ciphers and
true.
cramming too much into a film that hurts it, like that's part of Queenie's problem, perhaps.
yeah.
But it's definitely the problem for Tina. Is
Yeah.
that her name? Newt's?
Yeah, Newt's sort of, yeah,
Yes.
Tina.
Yeah.
Tina
Yeah.
Goldstein, Queenie's sister.
Yeah, like to me, just incredibly weak in terms of character development.
Yeah.
Like, who is she? Why does she care about Newt? Like, their relationship in the first film felt more authentic to me. In this film, their relationship feels
Well, again, I would
very
say
artificial.
that there's a lot of Crimes of Grindelwald that kind of reminds me of Deadpool 2 in that there's characters that are sort of crammed into this movie because they were in the last movie.
Right.
And they don't really have a lot to do. And this is the problem I see going forward, because we all know that these 5 Fantastic Beast films, they're ultimately going to culminate in the Dumbledore-Grindelwald battle.
Right.
Which means the characters that were introduced in the first film are more and more going to become marginalized.
It's why I don't care for prequels in general.
Yeah, I mean,
because they often struggle with this problem.
They do.
That you know where it's going to end.
Yeah.
And it just...
That's
it
why
just,
I liked
don't-
Fantastic Beasts, the first one. It was just kind of this whimsical little corner of
the universe.
the universe that we could do stuff
Yeah.
in,
It was
and now
new.
that they've had to tie it into
Yes.
the continuity, like
Right.
because
Which,
like
which
Lita
brings me
doesn't-
to the next point I wanted to make.
Okay,
though.
go ahead.
So, first, the idea that she and Newt are separated because she read a mistake in a newspaper
Yes, that was not
was
great.
just it all felt so forced. The way in which they forced Queenie and Jacob
Yes.
apart, the way in which they forced Newt and Tina apart, just felt.
I don't agree with you, because did you
Well,
catch
I'm afraid
this?
you're wrong on this
Well,
one.
I'm a woman.
Can't argue
She
that
has you
point.
there.
Yes.
Point Vicky.
Because they had this really brief conversation you might not have heard while they were going to look in the Lestrange vault. And they were talking, and he was trying to explain how he had insulted Aurors in a letter that he had written to her. So they had obviously been corresponding. So put yourself in
true.
her place. You're corresponding back and forth with this person who you fell in love with, and all of a sudden you read somewhere that he's engaged.
Well, you
On
know,
top of that, he just kind of trashed
but you
your
know
job.
that he's
So
socially
you would
awkward.
immediately go and ask him what's going on.
Right. Wouldn't you ask? Like, wouldn't you follow up? Would you just
No.
leave?
You very well might, because
I don't
Well,
think
but it
so.
also
she
raises
was
the
never
issue.
confident in herself to begin with as far as interpersonal relationships
Yeah.
went.
It also raises the issue that Newt does not come off well.
No, he
at a
says
lot of
things
times.
so literally.
Well, because one of the things that really bothers me is there's that moment where Tina blasts his brother, and he's like, "Oh, that's the greatest moment of my life," and I'm like, "Oh," and which was in the trailer. I'm like, "Oh, so
Yeah.
clearly there's bad blood."
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there during the movie, and I'm like, "Okay, so what? Okay, so Theseus is with Lita, but it doesn't. It seems like Lita could have easily have left Newt prior to that relationship."
Right.
So what else did Theseus do to earn Newt's ire? Well, he tried to get him a job.
Right.
He's trying to get his ability to travel internationally fixed, and he hugs him.
And he tries
Like
to
I'm like,
get,
How
Theseus is
dare
actually
he.
a decent guy.
well, and he actually asks him to pick sides
Yeah,
in a battle against Grindelwald.
Well, but the other thing, too,
who
is
in
that-
this movie is a fairly evil dude.
but that again, that's another way in which I think the movie is poorly written, because it's clear that Newt has chosen a side. He fought Grindelwald in the first movie. He's working for Dumbledore.
Yeah. Right.
Newt doesn't pick side. He doesn't pick political sides, which is what
Right.
I think they were trying to go.
Right.
Like Travers just wants to be the guy in power.
Right.
Like Newt doesn't pick sides because it's going to benefit him.
Right.
He picks sides because he
Okay.
he knows what's right or wrong. It's another way that I think that the film is not written well enough to let some of those things.
I agree.
Last
I
week, I'm
just-
like Theseus seems like a really decent guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, why does Newt hate him so much?
Right. And if Newt loves Tina, wouldn't he follow up with her?
Yeah,
At some
it's a
point?
weird.
It just
That
felt,
was perplexing, especially because
felt
did you
forced to me.
notice when Lita died, they made it very ambiguous about
Oh,
who
who
she
he
was
was saying
saying
she
says,
I
"I
love
love
you
you."
to. Right.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that's fine, but what is the point in that now?
Yeah, there is no point.
There really wasn't. There wasn't enough development.
and I think we might come back to
And
that.
that's the problem. Is like the
that
whole thing with
frequently.
Lita, because there's so much else going on in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Like that does not have the room to breathe like Lita, and the way in which that they're clearly trying to swerve us with the idea that Credence is her brother Corvus.
Right.
And we get that long exposition dump right before the final battle. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, so we're dispensing with that, but
Which raises two questions or two issues I wanted
Yes.
to raise. First, going back to the cramming too much
Mm-hmm.
in, there are clearly characters that get crammed in here just because they matter down the road.
yeah.
Like you
oh,
don't
yeah.
need Nicholas Flamel. I'm not even sure you need Nagini.
No, you don't need Nagini. No, Flamel you could write out of this film.
Very easily. Like it's
Except
just
for the Easter egg of oh, it's Flamel.
Oh,
that was
That's what
mentioned
I
in the
think.
and-
that's
oh,
what I
and the
there's-
shot of the Philosopher's
and there's
Stone.
the
Yeah.
yeah, and you're to me, that's
You
the kind of
hate Easter
Easter
eggs.
egg I hate
Oh,
in
yeah.
films.
That
It
is
just-
that did not need
to
to be
me
there.
it adds to this artificiality of the film that they have to be here
Yeah.
because we have to reference Harry Potter X number of times
Right.
to connect the films.
Yeah, well, and yeah, Flamel and Nagini too. I'm like, she did nothing in this film I think, besides tell Credence that Grindelwald was on the roof.
Right.
I think that's the one. Other than that, she turns into a snake. She gets pulled into the wall by the evil Auror guy that's around for like 5 minutes. Starts to turn into a snake, but apparently doesn't.
Yeah.
And then she's kind of clinging onto Credence's arm the rest of the time.
Right. So there were concerns about Nagini when we saw the trailers
yes.
in terms of sort of the exoticization of, the quote-unquote Oriental in American pop culture. I didn't think that was a big problem in this film. But the problem is that she was completely dependent on Credence.
Yeah, like that.
Like
yeah.
she's there only to sort of help Credence's part of the plot advance, and even then,
she doesn't really do much to help the plot
minor
advance.
ways, like the dude's on the roof. Like that's
exactly.
it.
Like other than that, I can't think. Well, yeah,
Hey,
of a
look
thing
up.
that she does.
Well, at times, again, to me, it just felt like a tireless parade of events. I really,
Right.
when we
Oh, that would
watched
have been that's a great title. Fantastic Beasts,
Tireless
a tireless
parade
parade of
of
events.
Ooh, could you
Fanta-
hashtag that for the show? That should be like what we should call the podcast. This version, a
Oh.
tireless parade of events. That's pretty good,
I
right?
call the podcast that.
Wait.
Well, this episode.
Yeah,
Oh.
the show. Yeah.
I thought you meant like he was
Yeah,
so
no,
that's
no.
a
Yeah,
show.
that's not the
Matt
show.
show.
Actually, it fits the
Matt
podcast
show.
pretty well too.
It's probably a little true, but we probably don't want to advertise.
A little
that.
close.
No, I just meant when you write the text.
Yeah.
tireless parade.
The description of the show.
Right, when you write the description,
episode.
there you go, the
Tireless
description of the
parade of
episode.
The reason I loved the original Fantastic Beasts was because they took a tiny corner of the Harry Potter world that you didn't know about, and she made it as beautiful as you hoped it would be,
Yeah.
as engaging as you hoped it would be, as lovely as you hoped it would be. And I was so disappointed by this next chapter.
Well, now it's just weighed down by the ponderousness of the continuity.
Absolutely.
Right, because had they made the first film just entirely about those four characters, in this romantic kind of way
Right.
that was just normal people doing normal magical things without having to tie it in
Yeah.
to some like impending Grindelwald Vor.
Right.
Vor.
The Grindelwald
That'd
War.
be better.
Voldemort, Grindelwald War. I would rather see Tales of Beetle the Bard, a whole separate standalone movie.
Yeah, I mean, I would like.
Something
Yeah.
Or even do
else.
like the Netflix, route, and do like some miniseries about it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there was, I mean, for a series called Fantastic Beasts, it's becoming less and less about the Fantastic Beasts.
Well, they
That's what I
definitely tried to
loved.
wedge them
They
in.
do.
But it
Yeah.
feels totally
feel
wedged in.
Also, I felt like Newt's assistant that clearly is in love with him was a pivotal moment to have in the film.
That was kind of annoying.
Is she going to come back maybe in the fourth film? And
I'm pretty sure she's going to like go to the bad wizard side when Newt rejects her.
Yeah.
Well, because women
And
need
steal
men
all of his
in their
beasts.
approval. Yeah, I hear what you're
Yeah,
saying.
so we're really not liking how the women are turning out in this film.
Yeah, no, they're not.
No, Nagini might be the best.
Oh, I think Tina might be the best just because she barely does anything. And so they can't really mess her up.
Wow.
Well, she maintains she's a strong person.
Yeah, like she's doing her job. She's an oar. She's
But in like a fit
investigating
of
things.
pique, just because she's
I know.
upset at Newt. Which gets to the thing that
But
there
that's-
were a lot of plot weaknesses in this film.
Yes.
One of which is the relationship for me between Newt and Tina.
Yeah.
The other was the whole baby story, that exposition you were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
So let me set it up for listeners. I'm
Spoilers
sure
ahead.
that after J.K. Rowling hears this podcast, she's going to go back and fix this problem in future films.
No.
Yeah.
She's going to hire us to fix this problem in
we-
future films.
No,
we
this,
should
this,
be fixers. Like
this
it should
podcast
be
would really hurt her feelings.
Hamilton
it makes
and
me
Austin
Feel bad.
fixers.
Yeah. That or
Look,
they
I
should
How
hire
much
us
was
for
she
that.
involved
They
in
should
this?
hire us for that how it should have ended.
we actually know how much
she's
thing on
involved in
YouTube
these?
because
Well,
I've got
there are
lots of
these
ideas.
lovely
No, I think
pictures
she
of her
wrote
posing
this,
with
right?
yeah.
She's one of the writers.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
she could just be on set watching.
Yeah.
No, she's credited as a writer of this.
But
Yeah.
as a
So-
writer, but I mean that may just mean like she has the main.
Yeah, so
plot
we should
points.
say to her right now that we really do love her work.
I love
Just this
her.
film.
We do.
She is the
Didn't
most
quite work for us.
creative individual. She does wonderful things in the world. I was sad because I
Yeah.
wanted her creativity to shine more.
But instead we get the baby swap,
Yes.
where a Dumbledore and a Lestrange baby
Yes.
were both on a ship right before it went down.
To America.
They were right across the hall from each other.
Mm-hmm.
They were dressed exactly the same.
Yeah, they're babies. Babies kind of wear the same thing.
No, they don't.
Yeah,
That's
they
what
do.
I said, Patrick.
They kind of wear the same
They're
thing.
wearing
Yeah.
exactly the same thing.
No, they were different colors of baby gowns.
I disagree.
With their baby gowns.
They didn't have Babies R Us back then. You couldn't go and.
That's
get,
the
like,
weird
Wait,
thing.
they
is
have
that
Babies R Us
the
now?
babies are doppelgangers for each other, and
I've
there
never
there is no.
Well, but the Lestrange and the
Well, you
Dumbledore
haven't
are
lived.
two high wizarding families that clearly shop at the same,
Okay, but still,
at
still the
Ollivander's
coincidence.
diapers and baby gowns.
Yeah, a
they're
baby
on
gown's
the
a baby
boat
gown.
at the same time.
Yes.
They're right across
Yes.
from each other. Lita switches the baby just because her brother's crying.
That was.
And it
that
can't
was
be
odd.
a boatload of magical people or a magical boat, right? Because there's no use of magic to try to save the boat.
No. It's just a standard boat.
Right. So it's a bunch of muggles.
They really should have made it the Titanic.
I thought that it was the Titanic at first.
That'd be really nice if it was the Titanic.
I mean, it wouldn't make sense,
Anyways,
but
back to your.
But
why not at this point?
It is so fantastical, it's unbelievable. Like, you can't convince me that this really happened.
It did happen. In
We
the
saw
world
it.
of this movie.
I find it interesting sometimes that people
I
choose one
can't.
thing. We all do it. You choose
Doesn't
one
sound
thing
like we all
not
do
to
it. It feels like,
believe.
a fairly pointed
Everybody
attack
does
against
it. Like when you go
me.
see a movie that's got all these amazing things in it, and then there's like the one thing in the time
You've been
travel.
complaining
or the
about the
one thing that
movie,
you
Vicky,
say.
for 25 minutes.
No, but
there
I think
weren't a
it's
bunch of
interesting
amazing.
But her critique is more general.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Than a
just-
particular.
It's
I mean,
interesting
it would
to
be
me that
like
that's
someone
what
being
bothered
really annoyed
But
because
wait
they
a minute.
completely changed the nature of the Obliviate spell in the film to fit their purposes.
What do you mean they changed the nature of the
Well, because
ability?
Jacob says, the reason why they explain he remembers stuff is like, because the Obliviate spell
Yeah.
just gets rid of bad memories. I'm
Yeah.
like, really?
What?
Is that,
No, it doesn't.
is that why they used it on like one of Voldemort's henchmen in part 1 of Deathly Hallows? They just got rid of his bad memories?
Yeah, that
Why didn't they do
hold
that
true.
every
Like,
bad
that's not how
person
it works.
ever?
It gets rid of all of your memories.
But in my defense against Vicky's attack, I've already
come
complained
on.
about Queenie and Tina, and now I'm complaining about the plotting. So
Okay.
I don't
This
think I'm
complaint is
fixated
louder
on just
than the other.
it is. Well, this is his big complaint.
this one. It's not my big complaint.
big
but
complaint.
Okay, it's my big complaint.
Really?
was.
Because I'm
Really?
trying to think.
You
what
talked
was the
about
really
this in the
cheeses
car
me
all
off.
the
yeah?
way home.
What was the first thing you said about the film
Just saying.
after we got done watching it?
All
It was
right.
the baby swap.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
We need to start doing these shows on the drive home from the movie.
Yes.
They would be fresher that way,
This is pretty
one
fresh.
supposes. So in terms of other characters,
Yes.
Johnny Depp wasn't terrible.
The only reason he wasn't terrible is because I have gone from really liking Johnny Depp to kind of despising him.
Yeah.
As I'm
an
sure many people
individual.
have.
Right,
And
yeah.
so he was believable. But then, you also do have to feel sorry for him in a way.
Well, I was glad he didn't do Weird Depp.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Because Weird Depp would have
He
would
did
have
well.
really destroyed the film.
Maybe
Yeah.
he's going to bring himself out of it.
Well, maybe it's not so much weird Depp so much as just tired Depp that wants a paycheck, and so he's just kind of
Just mailing it in.
yeah, pretty
because
much.
he's in pretty bad water.
Like he's just kind of. I mean, because he doesn't do anything weird, but he's just kind of there.
Yeah.
Like he's supposed to be this really
Yeah.
charming, seductive person. I'm like, I'm not sure I'm seeing it as much.
No, that hair is never charming nor seductive.
Yeah.
Jacob is just so flat in this film.
He is. Did none
He's
of
just
the
there for
like,
humor, right? Like
Yeah,
he's just
well,
there for a
He's
chuckle.
flat until
he's there because he
until
has to be because
doesn't
he was in the
follow
first
Queenie.
film.
When he doesn't follow Queenie, then you feel better about Jacob because you see that he has
Yeah.
some.
But the
Yeah,
other
but
thing,
you
too,
don't know
is-
where it comes
is
from.
How do none of the wizards in the rally notice that there's a Muggle hanging out there with them?
Well, there's no spell to detect that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But they usually know when someone's a Muggle.
My God, if I were a wizard, the first thing I would do is create a Muggle detector.
I was being sarcastic. There were once.
Oh, are there really?
Yeah. There's a bunch of things.
Is
in the
this in the
books
Star Wars extended universe that you're talking about, Rich, or is this
No, it's in the.
In Richard's defense, we are kind of spending the whole episode
Yeah.
on the Harry Potter.
But no, in the
extended
books,
universe.
there were
yeah.
like little gates that would like prevent people that non-magic to get in. Like, isn't it the whole platform 3/4 thing? Like,
That's true.
Random people can't just walk in by accidentally
That's
on
true.
the
They
Yeah.
can't
wall.
walk through the wall.
But how does that work? I never really thought about how
It's-
the platform
Threw
works.
your hands in the air and said
Well,
magic.
what's interesting is that despite the fact that Grindelwald, the villain
was
of
with-
this piece, is all about how Muggles are wholly other from wizards,
Right.
the wizarding world is based on the fact that Muggles are wholly other than wizards. In things like the door that doesn't let them through.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's always been a thing in Harry Potter from the get-go, is that, like, even in the books, it's always been most wizards may not look down upon them, but they definitely say...
Well, it's one of the things that I find interesting is because I always wondered, like, why there was so much of that in the Harry Potter, like the looking down on the Muggles and the Half-Bloods.
Yeah.
And then I realized, like, look at Grindelwald that's set, like, in the early 20th century. I'm like, oh, that was pretty recent. So, their enlightenment is pretty recent,
Well, but
like less than 100 years.
But in many ways, like, Like you're pretending like our enlightenment was somehow better.
No, I'm not.
It came earlier, but it certainly didn't get rid of the other
Yeah,
problem.
but that's,
you know,
that's my point. Is like
Yeah.
they got rid of to the extent they got rid of their Muggle prejudices, it happened even more recently than some of ours that we supposedly got rid of.
Right. But this is clearly kind of a parallel to that, right?
Yeah.
Like it's,
Yes.
which is where I want to go when we talk about something positive.
Okay.
But for another negative I had was the film was just so unrelentingly dark.
They've been that way since Yates took over.
Yeah, I
as
mean when
director, like
when
he's got
babies
a very...
when babies repeatedly kind of, it's not good.
Yeah, that was a really perplexing scene to me. I thought that he was going to predictably take that baby and make it his pet.
Yeah,
You're talking about the baby.
the baby that they killed just so they can have an
Yeah.
apartment, like just to have the apartment.
Oh, yeah. Well, but it makes Grindelwald like Voldemort.
Well,
He killed a baby.
I clearly
It's
saw
like
that.
he tried to
Voldemort
do
Yeah, you
that.
tried
clearly
to.
saw the
Like the parallels you're
Really?
supposed to
Really,
see.
because it was subtle?
Yeah.
The little baby sitting
You
there
love
with-
subtlety, don't you?
Yeah,
We got to
it
get
was
Riverdale
really-
back,
it
by the way,
was
because you love
It was
subtlety.
really, I was like, oh, Grindelwald's facing a baby child, much like Voldemort did. I wonder what is going to happen to said baby child.
Well,
He's
do you
going
guys
to cast a curse on it. It's
who
going
does
to go
not have a
down and
mom
hit
to
him.
throw itself in front of him.
do you guys have any more negative stuff to say? Because we got about 20 minutes left, and if we
Really?
want to get back on J.K. Rowling's good side,
Yeah.
we might
Yeah,
want
I
to talk
have
about
one-
stuff that we liked in the
I
We
film.
have to
One
get
really
press. We have to give
silly
a view
thing.
tickets for the next one.
I do have
a
to say that I
negative?
do.
It's a really silly negative. I
Okay.
thought that they could have done a better makeup job on Nicholas Flamel. I was just like, come on, man.
Fair
that
enough.
was bad. Anyway.
Well, I do. Yeah. I think going back to kind of Newt,
Okay.
I do kind of wonder that there's somewhat of an unrealized critique of him as someone that kind of valorizes himself in terms of I don't pick sides. Like
Right.
Yeah. He has the privilege to do that.
Right.
And I'm
So
like,
you're talking about a good thing or a bad thing?
I'm not sure
because they're critiquing
realize,
it.
Yeah, well, it's a critique of Newt's character that I'm not sure the film quite realizes.
Oh,
that,
so you're going to take your PhD and do something smarter with the film than the film knew to do with itself.
yes,
Go.
that the
Oh, there's
the
a,
Newt
there's,
sort
a, there's a
of,
show description.
That'll be the second one.
Yeah, that's more a description of me than the show, maybe. But I do feel like it does. There's kind of this whole thing.
Wait, are you
about
saying
Newt-
I don't make things smarter?
Yes, I'm saying that. Yes.
Ouch.
Ouch.
Yes.
It's probably fair.
Yes. Well, because you know.
I bring the
But
humanity.
yeah. So that was one of the things that I had. I also don't really understand how. I feel like we didn't really talk about the big revelation of who Credence is supposedly.
Yeah.
Of being the lost Dumbledore, which I feel like that's got to be a lie, if for no other reason
I
than
hope
the fact
so.
that Grindelwald in the last film had no idea that Credence, he thought he was a squib
Yeah.
until he revealed his obscurial powers. So I'm really wondering if this is another way that Grindelwald
red
is just
herring.
it's a red herring. He's just manipulating.
Because if there
Credence.
is another Dumbledore kid
You would have thought that would have come up.
that doesn't come up in any of the 7 Harry Potter novels or the 8 films, seems really...
Yeah.
I guess they talk about his sister. They do all the family dirt.
Yeah, well, we
Right.
meet the other Aberforth. We meet the other brother.
Right. And they don't...
We do care too much, but we met them.
Yeah.
Wow.
True.
Well, but it could be an illegitimate child. I mean, it doesn't have
So there's
to.
that. There's also the.
I guess
there's
so,
one-
but Dumbledore's going to know about it. at
Well,
this
that's the other
point. And
question
so it
too:
just
is
seems
whether or
weird
not
that it
Albus
wouldn't.
does
Yeah.
know about it. The other thing that bothered
But
me
he
is
will eventually, right?
Oh, yeah, you would
Over the
assume
course
so.
of this Fantastic Beasts.
But the other thing is, there's the moment where there's another just kind of minor plot point is that there's a scene where
Don't
Grindelwald
make too big a deal of it.
tells his henchmen, go to the circus and deliver my message to Credence.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure never happened.
Oh.
Because otherwise, why would Grindelwald have to show up on Credence's roof? And also, because at first I thought the guy he sent was a guy that was trying to kill.
Yeah.
I can't. Kama, was that his name? The guy that trapped Tina and then trapped Newt. That was the vengeful brother.
Oh.
Yeah, I guess.
I
yeah.
can't. I thought that was. I'm like, is that the guy Grindelwald sent? No, I think they're different people. But I'm like,
Yeah.
what happened to the message to the circus? Because I'm pretty sure there was no message that Credence ever got at the circus. So
Like
that
you're
was another-
fixating on it
Unless
too much.
message
But okay.
was just sort of a vague term that wasn't.
Yeah. So
After the credits is a guy with letter.
That's about it.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, Credence.
Looking for a Credence.
got a letter for Aurelius. I mean Credence. Firebones.
Just wandering the circus.
Yeah,
All right, so
hello.
that was a very unsuccessful
Is anybody
transition to the
annoyed by
positive.
Yeah, okay,
Credence's
so on to the
posture?
positive.
Oh, his posture,
His
yes.
way of being, it just drove me crazy.
His way of
He,
being.
he overacts a little bit,
Who are we
I think,
talking
in
about?
this film, Credence.
Credence.
Oh, to the extent that he has anything to do besides looking mopey.
And slouchy.
Until
mean-
the end when he just blasts Grindelwald's window. I'm like,
Yeah.
Is there a point to that?
Yeah.
I didn't.
I hate Windows.
Be gone.
More
Be
motivation
gone,
than
glass.
much of the film. So
Yeah.
But you wanted to talk about positive things,
We should, shouldn't we?
I suppose.
Okay. One positive, clearly, my only prediction on the film that I know will come true is that Nagini is going to save Credence in the end.
Oh,
She will sacrifice herself to the side of evil to save Credence to the side of good. Prediction
I
guaranteed
think that's
to
a
happen.
good prediction.
yeah.
Guaranteed.
Well, I figure something's got to split him off from Grindelwald.
And it's got to be Nagini because she's on the wrong side of the
some
circle
point.
right now.
Yeah.
You might not know this, but she's going to become Voldemort's snake.
No, I
eventually.
do know that because I hate that snake in the films.
I know. Oof.
That snake scares me. Like,
Me
like
too.
I like this version of Nagini. The snake that we see in the other movie, I hate that snake.
Me too.
I don't like snakes.
But
And
you
that-
like this version of Nagini.
I like the because it's a nicer snake. The snake in the other movies is always
It's a
creepier.
nicer snake.
It's a very
not,
scary
not
snake.
killing people, but
Yeah,
eating
that
them
snake was
alive.
That's where she
Scary.
only bit the circus master on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Yes, he deserved.
I
You know,
still
and
like
it's like you
Dumbledore. Like, I'm never going to not like Dumbledore.
I didn't hate Dumbledore
Don't
in
tempt
this
the
film.
movie.
And
Yeah,
I,
right? True.
And I didn't hate Newt in this film. Although I
you
think
have
Patrick's
to love
critique of
Newt.
Yeah, I
Newt
mean,
is...
Newt's about, he's got the same issues that he has before. I really like the character of Newt because there is some complexity there.
Right.
But I don't know if they're going to do anything with it because I'm like, Newt, who is supposed to be like the main character of this franchise,
Yeah.
he's not going to be the hero because it's going to be Dumbledore when he defeats Grindelwald.
But I mean, Newt.
And you
is
can always kind of see
integral
the
to
way in which the
everything.
new characters are getting marginalized by
Yeah.
the needs of the larger plot.
Right, because the four that we talked about, like, having something to do in
Yes.
the first film really are just sort of...
They're just kind of there, and they're like moved around like little pieces.
Yeah.
Anyways, you want to talk about positive stuff. I believe this was this section.
Yeah. So let's give Rowling credit for the way she wants to kind of think about pop culture and the world around us.
Mm-hmm.
So right after we watched the movie, I went to the gym I went Sunday morning, and I was watching the Fox Sunday Morning Show.
Right after you went to the movie you went to the gym the next day.
The next day.
That's not really right after.
Don't look
Must
at
have
me.
felt
I'm not
like
going to
it
help you with
because
this
I'm pretty sure
argument.
you
That
came
feels
home,
like a
had
quibble, but...
I'm pretty sure that you went home after the movie
Yes.
and had a lot of Chinese food and chocolate.
How would
And
you
watched
know
somebody
that
play
so
the Spider-Man video
specifically?
game.
Yes.
No, I don't want to play the new Spider-Man video
figured
game.
you
Oh,
would
if you
try.
insist.
Hour and a
I'll
half
play
later.
Spider-Man
Well,
video
perhaps
game.
I should go home.
I
What
felt
party
rude.
you at? It's fun, right?
Yeah,
felt rude.
I do not play the Spider-Man video game, but I watch others enjoy.
Yeah. We could do a podcast on the Spider-Man video.
We should
game
do that
some
at some
Oh.
point.
She does try to make these points that need to be made.
Yeah.
Yes.
She always has done that.
Right. So
And she's very vocal about
on the
it.
Fox morning show that I watched the next day, now that we've
Yeah.
cleared that up, there was a discussion of the new Disney princess film that's coming out, in which the princesses act, according to Fox News, in a quote-unquote hyper-feminist way.
You mean it's not a Disney princess film. They're all in the Wreck-It Ralph sequel. Is that what they were talking about?
I don't know. They said a new Disney princess film. Is
I think
what
they are all
said.
in the Wreck-It
They're all
Ralph
yeah.
Well,
That,
they
that's the
are.
thing that they're in.
and they're all like super badass.
I don't
Yeah.
know if Fox News is accurate or not. I make no comment on
Did you
that.
just say you don't know if Fox News is accurate or not? 'Cause
Who's
that
to
is-
say?
That's going to go in the show description.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they-
Alan's defense of Fox News.
No, just a quote. I don't know if Fox News is accurate or not.
Really trying to say something positive about
know.
J.K. Rowling, but
Sorry,
apparently
go
I can't get 2 sentences in.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. O'Reilly.
So they're really pissed off that there's this quote unquote hyper feminism in it. Like the princesses say,
Oh.
are you tired of always having to wait for a man to save you? And I guess Cinderella breaks her glass slipper. And,
Oh, that's Wreck-It Ralph then.
Yeah, that's definitely Wreck-It Ralph.
So,
'Cause
whatever.
She
Snow
breaks it
White's
off and
t-shirt
threatens
has an
to
apple
like
on
cut
it.
someone.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point being, there's all this stuff, right, about
Yeah.
like women asserting their independence in
Yes.
the world instead of waiting around for men to help them do it. So they brought on some expert
Oh, God.
who was a radio host. And they literally said, is her credentials mother of 2 kids?
No, okay.
So she's got to be right.
Is this connecting to Crimes of Grindelwald at some
I'm
point?
trying to complain about Disney. She's like, Walt Disney would have hated this. And
What
like,
do you-
well,
And that's our barometer.
Well, Walt
right,
Disney
like,
But
do we
did
all
lots
want to
of-
go back to thinking about the world like Walt Disney did?
Oh, I'm
Like,
sure.
Dis-
Actually, Fox News probably does
Yeah.
Yeah,
on a lot of levels.
right.
Didn't Disney approve?
They
like,
do.
Sign off on this at some point?
They had to. Yeah.
Right, but back to my point.
Okay.
They're upset with Disney.
Back to your point.
The current
Oh,
Disney is too
okay,
liberal
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
as compared to the
Right.
conservative old Walt Disney,
Right.
crotchety Disney. So it strikes me that you can't watch this film, is almost anything we watch today, and not see contemporary culture and politics written
Yes.
all over it.
It's one of the things I like
Right?
about the Fantastic Beasts franchise.
Yes.
Is because we talked about that with the first film and kind of the way in which it imagines sort of America that you can kind of see leading to our current situation.
Right, absolutely.
And so I do like that about for me, the Fantastic Beasts franchise is doing that more than Harry Potter did.
And I think that might be one reason people don't like it as much. Yeah. It's a little more heavy-handed. So when Grindelwald comes out to speak to the rally,
yes,
it just screams of a Trump rally.
Yeah.
Right? Like with oceans of people who are rapturously entranced by him. Even though, like you said, Patrick, earlier, he doesn't really seem particularly magnetic. And his message isn't like...
No. He's got terrible hair.
Hyper articulate. Right? His hair is
weird. His skin is a weird color.
And what's the deal with his eyes?
Yeah. Like there's nothing quite right with him, you know? He looks almost like a reptile in a way.
He's a space lizard.
Right. And he's using the race issue.
Oh, yeah.
Explicitly to rally his base.
Oh, yeah. He says the Muggles are not, beneath us. They're other than us. Or so like that's almost, they're not lesser but other.
Right. That's a really striking line in the film, like not lesser but other. Mm-hmm. And so obviously we know that this kind of political behavior has terrible consequences for the wizarding world, right? Like really bad stuff is coming. And one of my favorite parts of the film actually was when Grindelwald shows his followers what's coming.
Oh, shows World War II. Yeah.
Like World War II's coming. It's going to end with an atomic bomb. And you're like, he's right in a way. Yeah. Grindelwald is. Like, humans are really terrible.
Yeah, well, yeah, he talks about their brutality.
Right. But, of course, in a really Trumpian kind of way, his solution is no better.
No, his solution is just as brutal.
Right. It's just as brutal.
Or
it's
different
just
kind of brutality.
It's okay because it's his brutality, and his brutality has some kind of righteousness to it, whereas human brutality doesn't.
I mean, I did like the way in which at least it does call into question sort of the idea of World War II as the Great War.
Right. Yeah, no, I thought that was always good, but the Fox complaint, that pop culture is reflecting cultural norms totally misses the point, right? Which is pop culture has always done that.
Yeah. I have a fair or foul that's along those lines.
Oh, good.
This is Dan DiPlacido of Forbes.
Yes.
When it says, when this franchise started, it seemed to be a charming tale of an animal-obsessed introvert and his slapstick shenanigans.
Right.
But then
If only.
Newt Scamander, the guy who wrote the book on magical creatures, is sucked into a massive, all-consuming Rise of Hitler allegory.
Yep.
We already went through this with Voldemort, remember? Why, J.K. Rowling, did you have to bring your thinly veiled social commentary into this one?
Ouch.
We went through it already, and it was good. This time, I just wanted to watch a well-dressed nerd chase animals around.
I think that's a fair and foul. I mean, J.K. Rowling has established herself, like to the point where she gets to make the movie she wants to make.
Oh, yes.
She gets to share the message
that
she wants to share. I respect that. I think maybe it's more heavy-handed now because of where we're at now. Like when Harry Potter first came out, we lived in a different kind of world.
Yeah, we thought we lived in a different kind of world.
Right,
well,
we were
it wasn't.
mistaken.
But it was different in some ways. Like Donald Trump is different.
Yeah, but there were a lot of the things that led to Donald Trump were around.
Oh, for sure. But there's now an openness to kind of acknowledge this hate, right?
I too would like to
people
just
were
go
once
see a
ashamed of.
movie that has Eddie Redmayne running around and casting spells and having fun with magical creatures.
Yeah.
But I understand why she's doing what she's doing.
Yeah.
It just depends if you're going to a movie to be entertained and to escape what's happening, or if you're going to the movie to try to. She's trying to get a message across to people.
Yeah, but also I don't see those as mutually exclusive.
They're
either.
not.
But
yeah.
in this, the end result of this film, it feels a little mutually exclusive.
Exclusive?
That's what I said.
Exclusive?
That's exactly
Well,
what I
if
said.
you were hoping to
Wouldn't
see,
you say, like,
the fun of the first film, you don't get that.
There's not a ton of fun in here.
Well, the first film I think does. I mean, I thought the first film actually did some really interesting not as heavy-handed.
It wasn't as.
I thought it made some really interesting critiques about America, like very subtly the way in which it kind of captured a harshness to American society.
Yeah.
That, particularly in the 19th, we tend to try to gloss over. I actually really liked some of that, like the fact even
there was
linguistically,
there was enough of the magical, like fantasy fun.
Yeah.
Like this time we had only kind of the giant Chinese dragon kind of thing.
But maybe
no, there was the
romanticize
Kelpie that he rode for a little while.
Yeah.
Right. You get 30 seconds of kelp.
And we had the twig.
30 seconds of kelp.
Yeah, well the
twig.
But also not the twig, the what's the animal that wants the gold?
Yeah.
I'm
Sniffle.
No.
I'm totally blank.
Not a sniffle?
The Griffler?
Niffler.
Niffler.
That's close.
You know, but I think maybe I romanticized the first one a little bit because in talking to our 16-year-old daughter, she just kept saying, "That was so dark. That was so dark.
Hope
of course
remembers
this
the
one
dark
is going to
parts
be
of that
dark."
film.
She kept telling us how dark it was.
It is very dark, particularly
And
once you
so-
get Credence as the Obscurial and the battle. Like, it takes a very dark tone.
But there's
by
And even the bare bones mother and the abuse.
that was to her as a child watching it, and you know,
Right.
so.
But there's still a chunk of that film that's full of bright, colorful, fun creatures.
It's true.
It's a balance, right? Like,
Yeah.
that film might be half and half.
Yeah.
This film's like, what, 5% fun and 95%.
Well, but we also have
like,
the evil cat things. That's a magical creature.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were
The
scary.
creepy cat things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, if you follow her Twitter feed, her Twitter account, which you must, Jay,
I don't.
What?
No, it comes across my feed every once in a while. but I don't
Okay,
follow it.
well, she's so vocal about what's happening in the world
Oh, yeah.
that if she's going to have a platform, she's going to take it.
I respect that.
Yeah.
And I respect anybody in her position. The easy thing for her to do is to crank out, childish, fantastic stories
Right.
that make
It's
a lot
true.
of money and don't offend anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Or to use her Twitter the same way. But she doesn't.
No, she doesn't.
That I totally respect. But can I say one final plot hole? The fact that, the Lestrange information is in the vault in the library and nobody's ever bothered to look it up seems really weird to me.
Yeah. And I didn't quite see how they stole it. I don't remember what happened there.
Oh, you see, what's his face,
Who took it?
Abernathy, the one that helped.
Oh, Abernathy.
You see him there's one shot of him taking
Yes,
the book
yes, yes.
out of something.
I saw that
which you
it
realize in
happened.
retrospect was him taking the book out of the vault and leaving the note saying, it's at here.
But I couldn't remember who had done that.
Yeah.
I saw the form and then I was like, wait, what? Yeah.
Well, it would be the only way, I guess, Grindelwald could lie about it to Credence. If he's lying about Credence's true identity.
Well, but no, the book is just meant to prove that he's not Corvus.
Oh, that's right. It
Because
doesn't tell a story
because the
beyond
Corvus
the family
thing
tree.
pops up and burns away, so you know he's dead.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that little piece of information about how the women were all just beautiful flowers with no names. And that was just
There was a point there,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
there was a point there.
And yet, it's a film in which Queenie
I know.
and
I
Tina
know, I know.
could be seen as sort of ornaments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nagini. They're ornaments in the film. They're not...
Well, and the other thing, too, is that clearly that tree is meant to be like the one that's in Sirius's house.
Yes.
And that had the women on it, because it had, I
Yes.
know it had Bellatrix's face on it.
Yeah.
Because we see that face when she
I wish
goes.
I knew what you
Maybe
guys were talking
Bellatrix
about, because
changed
I
that.
don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Well, no, in
Prison of
Sirius-
Azkaban.
In his
Sirius
house.
Black
Open.
in the house at number 5 Grimald Place. He's got the big Sirius Black the Black
I-
family tree.
I'm not saying...
Okay.
Not saying anybody's lying about
Mike-
it, Patrick.
Mike-
I'm just
Mike
saying I don't
Hazard.
remember it.
Yeah.
Did you just break your
It's
mic?
still fine.
Yeah, because they snuff out Regulus, right? They burn him out.
And Sirius.
And Sirius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Sirius's sister.
Why are
There's a bunch
why
of
are there
them.
Lestranges in that tree?
It's the Lestrange house. And it was the Lestrange tree.
No,
But
wait.
why would
it's the-
Sirius be in the Lestrange tree?
He's descended from the Lestranges.
Is he?
Yeah. The Blacks and Lestranges are they're like cousins or something.
Everybody's related to everybody.
Because he said something about
Yeah.
my deranged.
Harry Potter's like royalty.
My deranged,
you know?
or maybe, or it might be that Bellatrix might have married into the. I think the Lestranges might have married into the Black family. Maybe
I
that
don't
was it.
remember. I can't believe.
But yeah, the
something I don't
Lestranges and
recall.
Blacks are all
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
intermingled.
So we did find something good about the film.
Yes.
It's kind of a strange.
I mean, despite
It's
we spent
heavy-handed
a good,
political
a good,
message?
a good, yeah, the heavy-handed political message is the. But I do like the fact that the Fantastic Beasts franchise is more tied into kind of the socio-political present.
I really
the
admire
Harry
that.
Potter
Like
films.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I like about it. And I did overall, like particularly coming into it, having seen the reviews that were pretty savage about it just being like a hot mess of a film and I think like I did enjoy the film.
I liked it
But a
more
lot
than
of-
Vicki
you
did.
know.
I think for sure.
I was just disappointed.
Yeah, to me, it was a perfectly entertaining film. Like
It was.
if I'm going to stop like being hypercritical of plot holes and whatnot, like it was a perfectly fine film.
Right.
But it was not one of the great Harry
Well,
Potter
and
films.
and the problem is that there should have been like the Mirror of Erised, the revelation about Credence at the end, and I would say
Yeah.
Lead to Lestrange's death. They're
Should have
all
been
moments that
more.
should have been more effective.
Right.
But couldn't because the movie just did not have the room.
Same
to
with
breathe.
Queenie and Jacob going different ways. Like,
Yeah.
like you can add more to that list of moments that could have had real
Yeah.
power.
Well, and that's what makes it a really, It's not the middle movie of the trilogy, but it feels like it because it's really about moving everyone around and getting to where they need to be.
It does make you nervous about the next couple before they get to the
It's true.
the climax.
Yeah.
Like, is it just more moving people around?
Well, I guess we're going to have to spend a movie of Dumbledore figuring out how to break, like, the little blood pact-y
Right.
thing.
Right.
Though I do find it interesting that the way they phrase that is like, oh, we swore not to move against each other. I'm like, you are doing nothing but moving against each
I
other.
thought that they weren't allowed to fight each other.
He says it a couple different ways. He says they can't. He says we can't attack. He says I can't move against Grindelwald. I'm like, all you got. He's literally got your.
Well, they were young. Maybe it was an ensorcement that didn't get quite.
Sorcelment.
A sorcelment that didn't get.
Ensorcelment.
Ensorcelment.
You're not ensourced.
Maybe it didn't get. It didn't get
ensorcelled.
fully ensorcelled. Is what I'm trying to say.
I guess if truth be told, I just wanted a movie about Newt Scamander.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I wanted
It's just
too.
very
and
charming.
part of it is like I really like Newt, and I like the
Yeah.
characters they introduced
Me
in the
too.
first movie.
Right.
And you can just tell they're gonna become more marginal.
Yeah.
Like over and like they're just gonna become.
I don't know what they're going to become, but in this film, the four characters that you really sort of invest in
Right.
are just the four most poorly treated characters
Yeah.
in the film.
And poor Jacob. It's just going to be like New York all over again. And, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the idea of like we're in New York, we're in Paris, we're in other places. Like it's
Yeah.
basically Newt Scamander's vacation
Yeah.
Yeah.
each year. That it was going to be with his buddies Tina and Queenie and Jacob kind of going.
Not so buddy anymore.
But yeah, like the problem is, and you can almost kind of see it the moment you get Grindelwald and Johnny Depp showing up at the end of Fantastic Beasts, like that.
different.
Like you've got the shift to so now we've got to explain.
Yeah.
The whole Grindelwald history, and this no longer is about Fantastic
I
Beasts
always
and
thought
Newt.
like the Grindelwald history would be really interesting, like to learn about in detail. Like that's a legitimate corner of the universe to explore.
Yeah.
Just the way they've done it, it felt like the first film was almost misleading you into what it's going to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. But if J.K. Rowling ever wants to come on the podcast,
Oh yeah.
we'd be happy to have her,
Yeah.
And not sue us.
and we'll bring Vicki back for that one for sure.
Oh, I'm pretty sure Vicki would be very upset if we had
Yes.
J.K. Rowling and she was not invited.
There's room on the couch for one more.
Yeah.
2 more.
We probably need to bring Hope too.
Yeah, Hope would come too.
Something tells me.
Yeah, Bobby might even want to come to that.
I mean,
Wow,
Hope
Bobby.
and I are tight with Daniel Radcliffe, so.
Oh, that's right.
That's right,
Maybe
you
we
guys
could
know.
get Daniel Radcliffe in here too.
That'd be
He's
fun.
not doing anything, right?
No, he's
Do we
never
really
busy.
want that much star power on one show? It feels like we should spread that
Spread
out.
it out a little bit. Maybe we could do remember how good our Oscar trilogy
Oh.
was? We'll do a Potter trilogy. I bet if we did a
Oh.
Potter trilogy,
I-
J.K. Rowling,
Daniel Radcliffe
You've already
Daniel
forgotten his
Radcliffe,
name.
and Emma Watson. We
and
should
Emma
probably bring
Watson.
in.
I'm trying to think of the three.
Nobody cares about Ron Weasley.
I mean, Emma Watson might
Actually,
be
I would
busy
love to have
trying
Ron
to
Weasley
change
on,
the
too.
world, I'm just
But we
gonna
could bring her on to
say,
talk about like her feminism and changing.
Absolutely.
The world. Like that's clearly what we were
Right,
talking
and so
about.
we've got the new
And
Oscar trilogy,
Daniel's
which I bet
new
will
play.
do better
We
than
might
the
get, like,
last one.
we might
in
get
terms
40
of
downloads.
the number of downloads.
Actually, they're all Daniel's
for
new
50.
play was all about words and how they matter and the
Yeah.
truth that I just saw, and I can't remember the name.
He's always
but
in New York. He'd be easy to
It's
get here.
ironic
Yeah.
that the play about
Rich.
words you can't remember
I
the name
can't.
of.
I can't. He's the whole thing is this search for truth within a newspaper article, which is just, of course, quite appropriate for
Yeah.
You can't escape it nowadays.
Yep.
yeah.
Are we out of time?
I feel like we're definitely at the 50-some minute mark.
Okay.
So wait,
So-
I'm still confused actually. Does anyone here like the movie?
I did.
I
yes.
like the movie.
Okay.
I liked it. I
But
was
why
just
does the
wanting
podcast
more.
seem like we
It
did?
does. I know.
I
it does.
know.
Because it was
well,
40
no,
minutes
let
of
me bring-
negatives and
I should say,
5
I-
minutes of
I tried
positives.
to transition
on
in my defense.
the level
Poorly.
of like I enjoyed the movie. It was a fun movie. I liked going back to the Potter world.
Yeah.
So wait, would you watch it again?
Oh, I'm sure I will watch it again. I will buy it on Blu-ray when it comes out.
I
When they
will
went back
watch
to
it again.
Hogwarts, I just like
I'll go back to the
even
original.
and I'm not a fan like you two are.
Yeah.
Like I thrilled to that. Like that, I thought that was really cool. Like
Yeah.
oh my god, like we're going back to Hogwarts.
McGonagall was there.
Yeah.
Even though she apparently shouldn't be.
No.
Well, apparently,
Yeah,
people have pointed
timeline-wise,
out-
it doesn't work out.
Timeline-wise, the movie's set in 27. Based on the book, McGonagall was born in 35.
There were some weird
Yeah.
timeline things.
So,
Well, the whole timeline. I was asking Vicki, when does the Harry Potter universe take place?
hard to say.
Because how old is Gandalf in this film?
Gandalf. He's like 800 or something.
What?
Gandalf has a staff.
He's like 800.
Dumbledore has a wand.
Okay.
Which is a short staff.
But my point is, like he's
Or
now
a long wand for
30
Gandalf.
something at least.
No, he's like probably in his late 500s in this film. Well, no, if he's 800 something,
Okay, if
he's
we're
probably in
really
his
going to
late
get picky,
700s.
Dumbledore and Grindelwald just don't look like they could be anywhere near the same age because Johnny Depp has really lived a hard life.
Yeah. And no amount of makeup's going to help with that one.
No.
I'm not sure I'd say Johnny Depp has lived a hard life.
He has.
He's lived a rough life.
Rough.
Yeah.
Hard kind of implies
Exhausting.
Yeah,
Exhausting.
yeah. I'm not sure there's been a lot arrayed against him.
Yeah.
We almost had this thing wrapped up.
We did.
I liked the movie because it was a Harry Potter film, but I would go back and watch the original many times over before I would go back and watch this.
Yeah.
one.
I mean, I liked it, but it probably has more to do with my affection for the Fantastic Beasts franchise and Harry Potter franchise more than like this is just a really good film.
Yeah.
And that seems like a fair review to end upon. If we can agree to end.
Sure.